So um, I have all the adapters made for this guy. Got them marked which one goes to which one because there's slight differences, slight variances in between them. I have all the jacks plates installed on the jacks, and I painted it white. I decided to paint it white instead of black. Uh, I decided to paint it white instead of black. I want to use less paint, and this is actually a really shiny finish. And I'd have to almost sand the whole thing to get a new paint to stick, so I just paint it white. Right now, one of the 3D printers is printing caps for these holes. I'm just going to go ahead and cap them both. The reason I'm doing both is actually has LEDs in them, and it would only light in one direction. Um, I may actually put the light back in and the cap on the one that's poking out, and that way when it's going up or down or whatever, the light will be lit. And this part here is actually going to be next to the camper, and this will be poking out toward the front and then toward the back, so I don't have to mess with the fuses here. One thing I do need to do, this is your direction switch. I need to bypass that and run these cables directly to the motor in there, and so I've got to take it apart for that. And I think that's about all I have to do internal. This little bubble cap here thing, there's actually a backup emergency activation nut essentially in there. It's like a 17 millimeter, I think. And I'll have a socket and a wrench and maybe a drill on the camper, so that if one of these actually dies in the field or something, I can run the jack down. Although most times I'm going to take it, I'll be here at the house, so it's not really a big deal. But today I'm going to take this cap off and rewire the switch or bypass the switch. I'm going to actually leave the switch in there just to seal the hole. And I do think I'm going to seal these guys, the inside ones, with a 3D printed cap. And then the outside, I think I'll just put the covers and the light back on. I tried to push one of the covers back in before. I didn't really want to go, so I'll have to figure that out. I may have to make a little pusher. But these are almost done. I'm going to get these probably mounted on the jack tomorrow. Excuse me. I'm probably going to get these mounted on the camper tomorrow. And So I'm through with the panel. These are just 4 switches, one each for the motor. They lock into place. They're not momentaries. The motor actually, the jack's actually going to move fairly slow, so I'll just be able to, do this and then wait for them and then pop them up. They're off in the center position, and then to go up, of course, the other direction. I wanted to go over how you wire switches. These are what are called double pole, double throws. They come in various different flavors, but these are on, off, on, and they're not momentary. That means they latch into place. So when you want to control a motor with these guys, you set them up in what's called an H-bridge configuration. And there's a couple ways to do this, but I like doing it this way. You'll see that I got red and black on this side, and then on the other end of it is black and red. And then the center, the motor will go here. And what happens is when you flip the switch up or down, these 2 poles are connected to the center, or these other 2 poles are connected to the center. And since these 2 are reversed, you get alternating polarity to the motors. You get plus or minus or plus. And generally I don't worry too much about the center ones as far as which side the motor goes to. If I'm flipping the switches down and the motor goes up and I want to change it, I just reverse the center too. Anyway, I just wanted to go over that. I am going to work on wiring the camper itself today, to string the wire for the motors and to the battery. I put this big connector here and ran all the reds and the blacks together, and I'm going to use this heavy 12 gauge wire to come from the battery, because theoretically the motors themselves have a resistance winding resistance of 1.2 ohms. So if they were stalled, they would pull about 10 amps. So I want these wires to be able to carry about 40 amps. The individual motors have fuses. I probably need to put a 40 amp fuse in this guy. I'll worry about that later. Probably stick an inline by the battery. Anyway, this is coming along. This had some mastic here. I'm not really a fan of mastic. I'm just going to use caulking to attach this to back to the camper. Of course, I'll wire everything together first, test everything, and then I'll screw this in. And I want to use caulking instead of Sikaflex or some marine stuff, because I may eventually need to take it off and work on these connections. It's going to be a lot easier if I can just unscrew it and pull it off and fix it.